morning, everyone. I hope you're doing well today. Thank you for joining me. Today, we are going to walk through some of our digital offerings again, and hopefully, a visual demonstration will give a little bit more clarity and make it a little bit easier to understand and to talk through. So I'm going to start today with the newsletter. I chose Country Folks because we don't have that many active advertisers right now with country culture. So I wanted to use Country Folks or Grower. So starting up here at the top, all of the newsletters by and large have the same header display, obviously tweaked a little bit to suit the specific publication. And then up here, up at the top, we have our first ad, Hampel's Caftel. I hope I'm saying that correctly. If I scroll down a little bit, you see that in relation to the image is obviously considerably larger. This is going to look a little bit different on a desktop display than it is on a mobile device like a phone. The phone, it will be a little bit more streamlined, but this is still very user-friendly, very readable. We have that one. We have the New York FarmNet, Paradise Energy Solutions, Clarifly, and then Pro Fleet Care. I'm not sure why this one is displaying a little bit larger than the others. They should all be the same, at least width dimension, but we can find out an answer on that. We always generally, just for the sake of the template, because all of the newsletters are based on a preset template with MailChimp, a preset setup, we need to keep them in the 580 width, I believe. I believe in the past we have played a little bit with the height. So that is not something we want to do all the time, but in specific situations, that is an option that's available to you, and that's going to be up to Krista and the specific publication manager to talk through what the possibilities are there. For those of us that maybe visualize better in inches, the 580 pixels comes out to about 6 inches wide, and the 120 pixels comes to about 1.25 inches. Now, when we talk about clicking through or links, I want to demonstrate what I mean by that. So here's the ad, and imagine I'm a prospective customer and a reader, a subscriber to the newsletter. I look at this, and I'm a dairy farmer, and I'm raising calves, and this looks interesting. I'm sort of familiar with the brand. I need hutches and housing for my animals, so I'm intrigued, and I have a minute to read. So I'm going to click on the ad here, and you should see it redirect here to the client's website. All right, so closing out of there, I've moved back to the newsletter screen. We're going to go try a different one. So now I'm coming down here to New York FarmNet. I can click within the ad, and I'm redirected right to New York FarmNet's website. So I'm going to X out of there and go back to the main screen. Try another one, Paradise Energy Solutions. If I click through here, it redirects me directly to Paradise Energy Solutions page. So when we talk about links, that seems to be a sticking point of confusion, but all we need to know when we're talking about the digital insertion order, you turn in the insertion order for Hampel's Caftel, I need to know the link. I need to have the link to the website listed on the page so that we know where to link this ad to. We need to know where you and the client want this ad to redirect to. So for instance, when I click on this ad, you should be able to see it in the video, I think, but this portion here, at least, right here at the beginning, the www.caftel.com portion of the URL, you need to include on your insertion order, because this tells Krista and whoever's setting up your ad, when you put the ad into the newsletter for this week, I need somebody to be able to click on it and go straight to this page here. If we go back to one of the other ones, New York FarmNet, the link for the New York FarmNet ad is going to be this here, the newyorkfarmnet.org. That's what you need to include in that blank on your insertion order. It's sort of like the address for the ad. We need to know where to send readers when they click on the New York FarmNet ad. Where do we need to send them? So we have to include that information. We do have some share options available as well. I wanted to mention this because we don't talk about it often enough, and it is underutilized with all of our newsletter resources. But you will notice this toolbar here, and then also down towards the bottom, I believe it appears again right here, as well as these buttons, which is basically just echo. They're the same thing. So Facebook share. No, I have that backwards. Facebook share, tweet, and forward. So basically what we want to offer people the opportunity to do, and you can do this yourself as well, is we want people to be able to share the content. So if we go to forward, it brings up this form where they can choose to share the newsletter with someone else in their life who might be interested in the same information, and say, hey, this is really cool, you should check this out. And I believe this gives them an opportunity to subscribe as well, some type of a prompt to subscribe to the newsletter. But this is just the basic information to get the copy of this week's over to their friend. If there's somebody you want to share it with, you're welcome to do so. And you can do that for a client, actually. That is a more streamlined way to do it. If there's a client that's interested in digital advertising and you say, I want to forward this, rather than forwarding the email, because if I were to forward this way, I would end up with the stacked messages and it's not as user-friendly. If I just do this, I can fill out the client's name, client's email, my name, my email, and an explanation. Hey, this is Andy. We talked earlier today. You were interested in taking a look at our digital resources. Wanted to forward this over to you. Check through the I'm Not a Robot thing and send email. So that is an option that's available to you. Facebook share. I'm logged into my Facebook, so it's going to already give me that option, and I can share the newsletter issue directly to my Facebook. So that is an option that's available to you as well. And we're not going to worry about that. So I'm not entirely sure that the colored links work well. These buttons do, so you can forward from any of these buttons in this taskbar. I believe that all of the newsletters have the same format, and I'd have to go back and look at some of the others. This is fairly self-explanatory, but if you're wanting to access any of the stories, you could just access the continue reading button, which in this instance, it's going to take us to the story at countryfolks.com, and we can go through and access the story here and read it in its entirety. All right, now we're going to switch over to some website examples, and I did want to touch on something that was mentioned briefly, but we haven't really encountered a whole lot of yet, and that is what happens if you have a prospective client that you think digital might really make sense for, but they don't really have a whole lot of a web presence, and when you go to list out those links on your insertion order, you don't really have anywhere to redirect them to. You don't have an address to send the prospective customer to when they click on that ad. This is an example here of the banner, the leaderboard banner ad position that we have available. This is 728 by 90 pixels. I'll give you the dimensions of that in inches in a moment. But this is the leaderboard banner ad. Currently, we have that set up as a house ad. Now, it's not going to do anything, but I will show you just because I don't have my email set up on my desktop. But this is linked to my LeapHub email address. So when I click on this, because ideally we want this to hook people in, we want them to be interested in advertising and reach out for information. So if I click within the This Could Be You artwork, it's going to try, and you should see this pop up with add an account, because I don't have an account set up on my desktop, it's trying to redirect to my email. So that was sort of what I was trying to talk about in the meeting on Thursday. In that instance, there's not going to be any content for them to, we're not sending them anywhere to interact with any content, but we still want to give them an avenue to get in touch with us. So in the instance of a client prospective customer relationship, there wouldn't be any content for the prospective customer to interact with, but we're still giving them a way to get in touch with the vendor, with the advertiser, and say, hey, this looks cool, I need this, I'm interested in your product, let's talk. And I'm going to be able to send them an email. So that is a possibility. Don't let that deter you. If you have a client that you think, excuse me, either they're interested in digital, or you just look over their stuff and you're like, I think the country culture audience or the country folks audience online or the grower audience online could really make sense for them, but they're not really set up with a website, this is something we can do for them. All right, I did want to talk through a little bit of the media kit, specifically with country culture, and obviously that's going to look a little bit differently for the various websites, but there seems to be some confusion on the sizing for the website ads, and I did want to talk through that a little bit. Here, this is on page 6 of the current 2022 media kit. And this is an old diagram from Matt's Rock Road Recycle Media Kit. This is a diagram of a web page. These are all of the positions in context. Things have moved ever so slightly on the actual country culture website, but these are all what those positions would look like in context. So here we have the leaderboard oranged out here. Here we have the rectangle on the right margin. Here we have the cube position on the right margin. And here we have the skyscraper. Now, if we start at the top here, I am going to give you, these aren't approximations, but these are roughly what each size would look like in inches to sort of give you some context if you're still having issues with pixels. So the leaderboard is going to come out to about 7.5 inches wide by just about 0.9 inches tall. So you saw that on the country culture website, how it's pretty shallow. There's not a whole lot of space depth wise, so you're going to want to keep it limited to text in most instances. Pretty important details like one phone number, one email, something you really want to grab their attention because you don't have a whole lot of space there, but it still can be some pretty prime real estate. It's the first thing that you see when the website loads. For the rectangle position, that is going to come up to about 3 inches wide by just over 2.5 inches tall. So that's the ground you're working with there. The cube space is exactly to the money, 2 inches wide by 2 inches deep. So for a position like that, again, you're going to want to keep it pretty limited to just the important details that is going to catch the potential buyer's eye and pull them in. The skyscraper position on the left margin is 1.25 inches wide by 6.25 inches deep. So you do have some real estate to play with there, but it is going to be compressed and a little bit compacted. So I did want to go over one more example here on country culture. Country Boy Realty, Shane Buttles, is a local advertiser, and he had jumped in with the yellow ribbon package, which is the lowest package that we have available as far as presets go. This is an example of the cube ad, which again is the 2-inch by 2-inch format. The rectangle will be just a little bit wider. I'm going to come out here a little bit more. So there is more, after I looked at it again in context, there is a little bit more space than I thought to play with, but you are going to want to keep it pretty limited. You can see this okay because it is on my desktop, but you do want to take into context mobile displays, people looking at this on their phone, and if you get the text too small, it can be a little bit hard to read. This is more than fine on a desktop context, but that is just something to keep in mind. You do want to keep it fairly streamlined so that it is readable. But again, this is the cube format here, 2 inches by 2 inches or 200 pixels by 200 pixels. I did want to go over this as an example. If you haven't been on it, and hopefully you have, because this is yet another resource that we need to be paying attention to in the digital world. But we have Rock Road Recycle is our weekly offering to heavy construction, waste handling, aggregate mining, all that fun stuff. And this is our website, rockroadrecycle.com. And I wanted to go over this briefly because this is the only example that I know of any of our websites or digital offerings online that have ad placements on both sides of the screen. So the sizings might look a little bit different website to website, and obviously these do look a little bit smaller. I'm not sure on the exact pixel count for these, but this just will give you an idea of what it would look like to have placements on both sides of the screen here on the right side and the left margin. Eventually, we hope to have that in play for Country Culture. The skyscraper position would be here on the left margin, and then we would have the cube and rectangle positions both occupied here on the opposite side of the screen on the right. Now, you may take all of that into account and you say, well, what do we do if we get multiple advertisers? Because after all, that is only 4 positions. So what do we do if we get multiple advertisers in play who all want those positions? Because that could get easily very complicated with having 30-day runs for each of those website ads. That's a pretty long waiting list. So there is a course of action for that. And I'm going to direct you here to the right side of the website with Rock Road Recycle. The Buck Knives ad and sort of this Vermeer ad as well down below. You'll notice them flashing through various images in a looped GIF format. A lot of us know that as a GIF that flashes back and forth between a couple of preset images on a loop. The format looks different in every context, so it may not look exactly the same, but it's going to be that basic idea. We will be able to run multiple advertisers per each location, and it would sit there on a loop and flash through their ad placements and be able to rotate. Hopefully, that is the theory. But just to give you an idea of how that might work, again, I will direct you to these examples here on the right side. We would just cycle through ad artwork. There would be a few second pause on each image, and prospective clients and readers for the website and newsletter, or for the website in this context, prospective readers would be able to click on that website ad and be directed to that specific client's website. All right, let's talk about Facebook. How do Facebook ads work for our company setup? You'll notice here in the media kit for Country Culture, and I believe it's also the same for Country Folks and Grower, or at least it was at one point in time, there are 2 sets of dimensions listed in pixels. I think we may rectify that. There are 2 different dimensions, 2 different sets of dimensions that Facebook recognizes as far as timeline posts go, but for sake of confusion and to make it as easy as possible, we may streamline that in the media kit. If you go to sell a Facebook ad to a client and there's questions about that, your manager, yourself, and Jessica Waite can work together to find out what would work best for that specific post. If we go over to Facebook, I'm going to go to Country Folks here for sake of an example. And here we have Hampel's Caftel, which was one of the examples from the newsletter as well. So they're here in the timeline. We have an article. I'm scrolling down. Here's their ad. Now, it appears within the context of the timeline, but I can also click it and blow it up and read it a little bit easier. I had mentioned in the meeting something about including a caption. This particular post or this advertiser didn't include a caption, but that would show up here with your text about whatever they're promoting, about the company in general. And since we cannot link Facebook ads the same way we would newsletter or website ads, you could include a URL, a link to the website here that a prospective customer can click on and be directed to their website to shop, to peruse their inventory, and so on.